Welcome to the Stoic Mirror, a place to pause, reflect, and reconnect with the strength within. Today's episode asks a powerful question. What do you lose if you don't learn to control yourself? Through the teachings of Stoic philosophy, we'll uncover how self-mastery shapes the quality of our lives, from the smallest habits to the biggest turning points. As you listen, may you find peace in your mind, clarity in your heart, and the courage to keep becoming who you were meant to be. Wishing you good health, lasting joy, and quiet strength wherever you are in this moment. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing growth. Let's begin. Part 1. The moment that changed everything. He lost everything in a 2 a.m. phone call. Not his money. Not his career. Worse, he lost himself. The city was still sleeping. Neon lights flickered outside a cheap apartment window, and the hum of the fridge was the only sound keeping him grounded in reality. It was one of those nights, heavy still, the kind of night when the smallest crack becomes a landslide. His name was Ryan, 33, driven. Used to be the guy who had everything under control. Fitness, finances, girlfriend, 5-year plan, even meditation. Until one decision, one impulse, flipped the table. You see, Ryan was the kind of man who thought control meant suppression. He thought being strong meant never showing weakness. But when the pressure built, and the job got cut, and the girl left, and the phone went silent, he didn't respond like a stoic, he reacted like a storm. He screamed at his friend, smashed a chair, drove 90 down an empty freeway, just to feel something. And in the end, when the fog cleared, he was left with nothing but a broken mirror and an apology no one wanted to hear. Why? Because he never learned the one thing that matters more than hustle, confidence, or success: how to control himself. And here's the real paradox. We spend years trying to control the world. But we forget to master the one thing that's actually ours: our own mind. Ryan couldn't control what happened to him, but he could control how he responded. And that's when his journey into Stoicism began, not through books or quotes, but through fire. So let's start here. With you, have you ever lashed out and regretted it the next day? Have you ever felt like your emotions were driving the car, and you were just a passenger, wide-eyed, screaming, no brakes? What do you lose when you don't learn to control yourself? Not just jobs, not just relationships. You lose your integrity, your peace of mind, your future. In this story, in Ryan's story, in your story, we'll explore what it really means to master the self. Not through silence, not through perfection, but through philosophy, through trials, through transformation. Let's begin with a question the Stoics asked over 2,000 years ago. What, truly, is within your control? The illusion of control. You can't stop the rain. You can't change the past. You can't make someone love you, or respect you, or stay. But you can always choose your response. That's the core of Stoicism. That's what Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and philosopher, whispered to himself every night before sleep. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In Ryan's case, the job loss wasn't what wrecked him. The breakup didn't destroy him. It was his reaction, uncontrolled, emotional, raw, that burned everything down. Control isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about becoming the kind of person who can stand in the fire and not be consumed by it. That's what the Stoics called erite, the pursuit of excellence in character. Let's bring it closer. You're scrolling Instagram, seeing everyone's perfect life. You miss a call from someone important. You flunk an exam. You get ghosted by the person you thought was the one. The pressure builds, the self-talk spirals. The anger or shame starts to take over. But here's where the first lesson comes in. Control is a choice, every time. You can rage at the world, Or you can pause, breathe, and choose a response that aligns with your values. In that moment, you're free, and no one teaches us this in school. But maybe it's the one skill that separates the broken from the resilient, the ones who crumble from the ones who rise. Let's talk about self-discipline, not as punishment, but as freedom. Imagine waking up every day and knowing, no matter what hits me, I won't betray myself. That's power, not the kind you post online. The kind that makes you sleep peacefully, that gives you strength in heartbreak. That lets you walk through failure and still hold your head high. That's the kind of control that can't be bought. Only earned, through suffering, through patience, through repetition. And here's the thing, self-control isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about being able to feel everything, without being ruled by anything. When Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," he wasn't being poetic. He was telling us that most of our pain comes from how we react, not from what actually happens. It's the overthinking, the catastrophizing, the endless what-ifs. But what if, just once, we chose not to spiral? What if you learned to sit with discomfort, instead of running from it? To face your fears instead of numbing them with distractions? The truth is this, if you don't learn to control yourself, someone or something else will. Social media algorithms, toxic relationships, addictions, old wounds, society's definition of success. And you'll wake up one day, like Ryan did, wondering, why don't I recognize myself anymore? But you can change that, starting now, by understanding that every emotion is a wave, and you are the ocean. That every failure is a teacher, and you are the student. That every setback is a mirror, and you choose what to see. And that's where our journey begins, not with perfection, but with the first step, learning to control the only thing you truly own, yourself. Because when you don't, you lose far more than you think, but when you do, you gain everything that matters. Shall we keep going? What happens when you love fate, even when it's brutal? When you stop resisting the storm and start dancing in the rain? Let's find out. Part 2. The fire that shakes you. The next morning, Ryan woke up to silence, not the peaceful kind, the hollow kind. The room was still, the bed cold, his phone had no messages, no calls. Just one email from HR confirming his departure. They called it restructuring. He had no job, no partner, no plan, but more than that, he didn't have himself. Not the version of himself he thought he was, the one who kept it together, who rose and grinded, who was supposed to be in control. And here's where the second chapter of his story begins. Not in triumph, but in surrender. Not surrender to chaos, but surrender to reality. That's what the Stoics called amor fati, love of fate. Not tolerate it, not endure it, love it, especially when it's ugly. Because fate isn't your enemy, it's your sculptor. The unexpected gift of adversity. Let's stop pretending pain is optional. Life is going to break your heart. You will lose people. You will fail. You will get it wrong more than once. But here's the secret the Stoics discovered, and most of us ignore. You don't grow in comfort. You grow in the fire. Marcus Aurelius, ruling during plagues and wars, didn't ask for peace. He asked for strength to endure. He wrote in his journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that. The very thing you're resisting, the breakup, the layoff, the depression, might be the doorway to your evolution if you let it be. But most people don't. They run. They distract. They blame. Ryan did all three. He tried numbing it with drinks, then video games, then meaningless flings. But the emptiness didn't shrink, it grew louder. Until one day, he did something different. He stopped, he sat with it. No distractions, no music, no texts, just the discomfort. The grief, the regret, the guilt. And that's when he heard something deeper than pain. He heard truth. The lesson of amor fati, don't just endure it, use it. Ryan started walking again, no headphones, no destination. Just walking, one foot in front of the other. And as the days passed, something strange happened. He began to feel stronger, not because the pain disappeared, but because it didn't own him anymore. He stopped saying, "Why did this happen to me?" and started saying, "What is this trying to teach me?" That's the essence of amor fati, to take the broken pieces and build a cathedral. To take the fire and forge a new soul, to love the thing that hurt you. Because it was the only thing strong enough to wake you up. Let's bring this back to you. Think of the worst thing you've been through. The heartbreak, the failure. The same you carry quietly. Now ask yourself, did it break me or did it build me? Maybe the answer isn't clear yet. Maybe you're still in it. That's okay. Just remember, the Stoics didn't avoid suffering. They trained for it, because they knew that suffering isn't the end. It's the beginning of transformation. The practice of control. Sitting in the storm, Ryan's transformation didn't come through books, it came through practice. He started journaling every night, 3 things he could control, 3 things he couldn't. He stopped trying to fix his emotions, and started observing them. He began asking himself Stoic questions when things got hard. Is this within my control? What virtue is being tested here? Will this matter 5 years from now? This wasn't therapy, it was spiritual weightlifting. Every rep a hard conversation, every set a tough decision. Every drop of sweat, a step closer to self-mastery. Memento mori, remember death, live better. One night, walking home under a pale sky, Ryan saw a tree shedding its last leaves. Winter was coming. And that's when another Stoic idea hit him. Memento mori, remember, you will die, not to make you afraid, to make you alive. Seneca wrote, you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. We scroll like we'll live forever, argue like we'll never run out of time. Waste days, weeks, even years, thinking someday we'll get serious, but life doesn't wait. One accident, one diagnosis, one phone call and everything changes. Ryan realized he had been waiting to feel ready to start over. He was waiting for permission to live. Memento mori reminded him, you don't get extra time. You only get this moment, and how you choose to respond to it. And that's where his true power began. He stopped waiting. He stopped blaming, he started living deliberately. Not controlled by fear, not driven by ego, but grounded, rooted, in something ancient, in something real, living with virtue, not with excuses. Ryan made a pact with himself. He wasn't going to chase happiness. He was going to chase virtue. That's what the Stoics believed. Happiness is a byproduct. The goal isn't to feel good, it's to be good to live with. Wisdom, knowing what matters. Courage, doing what's hard. Temperance, not being a slave to your desires. Justice, standing up for what's right, even when it's unpopular. He didn't always get it right, but every day, he showed up. Not as the man who had it all figured out, but as the man who refused to lie to himself anymore. And that was enough. So let me ask you, what adversity are you facing? What fire are you walking through? What part of yourself are you running from? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped? Stopped fighting fate, stopped chasing illusions. Stopped pretending you're okay when you're not, and instead, what if you leaned in? What if you learned to love your fate, even if it hurts? Because that's where control really begins, not in avoiding the storm, but in learning to breathe inside it. Let's keep going. What does it actually look like in a modern world to walk this path? What if you applied Stoicism not just in suffering, but in your daily grind, your dreams, your relationships? What if you turned philosophy into a survival tool? Let's see where that takes us. Absolutely. Here's part 3 of your YouTube video, What Do You Lose If You Don't Learn to Control Yourself? This part brings us deeper into modern application, how Stoicism isn't just about survival, but a blueprint for mastery in a chaotic world. Part 3, Turning Philosophy into Power. There's a reason Stoicism has lasted 2,000 years. It's not because of fancy words or ancient robes, it's because it works. Not just in the arena of war or exile, but in boardrooms, breakups, classrooms, and street corners. It's built for the real world. The lie we've been sold, let's get real. Most of us are taught to feel our way through life, follow your heart. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it, just be your authentic self. But here's the problem. Your feelings are not always your friends. Emotions can be manipulated. Fears can be irrational. Desires can destroy you. So what do you do when your emotions want to drive, but they've never read a map? That's where philosophy steps in. Philosophy isn't about sounding wise, it's about building an inner compass. So when everything outside is shaking, you're still standing. The modern Stoic doesn't flinch, he adjusts. You don't need a toga to be a Stoic, you need discipline. You need to build the habit of checking in before you check out. Let's break that down. Most people react, Stoics respond. There's a split-second moment between stimulus and response, and in that space is your freedom. Someone insults you. You can fight back, sulk, to clap back. Or you can pause, breathe, and ask, is this worth my energy? Is this person in control of my emotions, or am I? That question alone separates the masters from the masses. The 3 things you always control. Epictetus, born a slave, crippled for life, taught that there are only 3 things you ever control. 1. Your thoughts. 2. Your actions. 3. Your attitude. Everything else, your body, reputation, job, health, relationships, are external. They can be taken at any moment. So why waste energy trying to own what you can't hold? Instead, double down on the only 3 things that truly belong to you. You can't control your boss, but you can control how you show up. You can't control the economy, but you can control your discipline. You can't control the people who hurt you, but you can control whether you become like them. That's where real power lives, not in domination, but in self-mastery. Modern chaos is a test, not a curse. Let's talk about modern life for a second. Everything is designed to hijack your attention, to trigger your emotions, to sell you urgency, outrage, and dopamine. You're not weak for feeling distracted or anxious, you're just outnumbered. But the Stoic doesn't see chaos as a curse, he sees it as a test. Ryan began treating his day like a dojo traffic. A chance to practice patience, gossip. A chance to practice silence, temptation. A chance to practice restraint. Criticism, a chance to practice humility. That's the secret. The Stoic doesn't wait for peace. He builds it, moment by moment, reaction by reaction. Freedom isn't what you think. You think freedom is doing whatever you want. That's not freedom. That's enslavement to your whims. Real freedom is wanting only what you truly need. It's being unshaken when others panic. It's not needing the world to behave in order for you to stay calm. When you learn to control yourself, you gain freedom from the need to control everything else. And that is powerful. Control yourself, or be controlled. Let's not sugarcoat it. If you don't learn to control yourself, you will be controlled by your cravings, your impulses, your past, your phone, your need for validation. your pain, your trauma, other people's opinions, the algorithm. You will live as a puppet, not a person, and no one can save you from that except you. A Stoic life is not a quiet life, it's a powerful one. A common myth is that Stoics are cold, detached, emotionless. Wrong. Stoics feel everything. They just don't let everything own them. They cry, they bleed, they love, they lose. But they never surrender their soul to what's temporary. Because they've already chosen something higher, not survival, not comfort, virtue, and in choosing virtue, they choose control, not over the world, but over themselves. So here's the question for you: what part of your life would radically improve if you simply stop being a slave to your emotions? Your relationship, your goals, your peace of mind. What if you stopped needing everyone to understand you? What if you stopped explaining yourself? What if you stopped chasing and started leading? You don't need more hacks. You need more clarity, you need more discipline. You need more practice. That's how Stoicism works. That's how self-control becomes your superpower. Absolutely. Here is part 4. The final chapter of your YouTube video: what do you lose if you don't learn to control yourself? Part 4. Make it a way of life, not a mood. Let's be honest. It's easy to feel inspired for 5 minutes. It's easy to nod along to a podcast, underline a quote, save a reel. But self-control is not a mood, it's not a burst of motivation. It's not a temporary fix for chaos. Self-control is a way of life, and if you don't build it now, life will build consequences for you later. You don't rise to the level of your feelings. You fall to the level of your habits. So the question is, what are you building? You don't need to be perfect, just present. Ryan didn't become a Stoic overnight. There were days he still lost his temper, there were nights he still broke down. But one thing changed: he started to catch himself. That's the real turning point, not perfection, awareness. The second you catch your anger and breathe, instead of snapping, you're practicing Stoicism. The moment you want to binge, scroll, escape, and instead sit with your discomfort, you're practicing mastery. The instant you're about to gossip or lash out, and you stop, you win. Self-control isn't about living like a monk. It's about noticing, interrupting, choosing again and again and again. The mirror test. Here's something ancient Stoics used every day: the evening reflection. Before bed, they'd sit in silence and ask, "What did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What can I improve tomorrow?" No shame, no self-punishment, just accountability. Seneca once wrote, "Let us examine and inspect our souls daily. This is what makes us truly free." It's not about guilt, it's about growth. Because if you don't examine yourself, the world will do it for you, and the world isn't always kind. You build or you break in life. You are either building resilience or reinforcing weakness. There is no neutral. Every decision, what you eat, what you think, how you speak, who you forgive, is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. And here's what no one tells you: your future self is not a mystery. He's built from what you repeat today. Do you wake up and check your phone first thing? Do you say yes when you mean no? Do you avoid discomfort? Do you escape instead of engage? That becomes you. Not overnight, but inevitably. Why most people fail? Most people think the goal is to feel good all the time. They confuse comfort with happiness, but comfort is what sedates you. Happiness comes from effort, progress, alignment with your values. That's why most people stay stuck. They'd rather stay comfortable than become free. They want the rewards of discipline without the pain. They want peace without paying the price. But the truth is, you pay for control once. You pay for chaos forever, death as a compass. There's one Stoic truth we've saved until now: Memento mori, remember, you will die. Sounds dark, right? But it's not about fear. It's about focus. When you remember your time is limited, you stop wasting it. You stop needing to win every argument, you stop chasing people who don't see you. You stop living for the weekend, the likes, the validation. You begin to ask, what really matters? Who do I want to be? What legacy am I leaving, even in my small daily actions? Because when you die, you don't take your bank account, your followers, your ego. You take your character, you take your choices, you take your discipline, the quiet strength of the Stoic. The Stoic doesn't need attention. He doesn't need credit. He's not loud, because he doesn't need to be, he's steady. You won't notice him in the room until things fall apart. Then suddenly, everyone looks to him. Why? Because he's the only one who isn't panicking. The Stoic has trained for the storm, not with weapons, but with wisdom. And while the world burns in noise and emotion, he moves through it with grace, strength and silence. That's not weakness. That's power, the kind no one can take from you. The final challenge, choose who you want to be right now. You're facing the same question Stoics asked 2,000 years ago. Will I be ruled by my emotions, or will I rule them? This isn't about religion. This isn't about personality. This is about ownership. You don't need anyone's permission to take control of your life. You just need to decide. Will you keep reacting, or will you start responding? Will you chase comfort, or build character? Will you surrender to chaos, or rise above it? You are not your fear, you are not your past. You are not your emotions. You are the one who watches, the one who chooses. The one who can still change, and if you choose control. Truly choose it, day by day, moment by moment. Then you don't just save your peace, you save your future. You don't just gain discipline, you gain freedom. You don't just survive, you lead, because in the end, if you don't learn to control yourself, the world will do it for you. And the world is not as kind as you could be to yourself. Choose now, choose better, choose you.